Hey everybody, good morning. It's about 10:30 in the morning on the 11th of April 2022. I'm back. I was out of the office on vacation last week and just trying to get back in the swing of things. Before I get into any of all of this, I want to let you know this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor responsible for your own trades. Manage your own risk, doing your own research, and I'm just giving my opinion on the market. Today I'm going to be talking about a wide variety of things. I'm actually going to be talking about bonds. I'm going to talk about the dollar index, and then of course I'm going to do my normal update on the S&P, on NASDAQ, and on Bitcoin. So I'm actually going to start with bonds. So let's go ahead and excuse me, move on into the chart here. So I'm looking at at ZB. This is our 30-year futures here. And I want to go all the way back to basically the COVID crash. So all the way over here, we were talking about like negative yields and everything, at least attempting to move into negative yields. And, we knew at some point that rates were going to be raised. We didn't know when it was going to happen, but we knew that they said that they were going to start raising rates. But from this move here, we were all the way up here at about 191.18. We had a big swift move down, and this is basically where we had the bottom, the COVID bottom. And we know that the S&P grinded up. And what we've got here in these bond futures, it's very clear that we've got an A, B, C correction here into what I'm referring to as a wave two. This may be a WXYXZ. I haven't quite decided just quite yet what this is actually going to be, if this is a complex correction or if this is an impulse. I do think that the interest rates are going to continue to raise through time. But also keep in mind that as I'm saying this to you, admittedly, I am already telling you something that you should already know. We should already be aware that rates are being raised. We know that there are going to be an X number of increases over the coming months or years or however long it's going to be. Maybe a lot of them are going to happen just this and next year. But a lot of that is going to be priced in. We should already be aware that if they're saying that there's going to be X number of basis points increased over X amount of time, you should already be aware that a lot of this is going to be priced in to a certain degree. But what I will say is, ZB is something that's going to move in the opposite direction as, say, for instance, US 30Y, which is going to be your 30-year government bond yield, right? So again, back here, COVID lows, big spike up, and then we had our little correction, and then a move up and a pullback, and then a move up. I believe that it's very likely that the 30-year bond yields are going to go up to maybe 3% to 3.5%, here in the coming months. I think it's very, very likely it's going to happen. Now, we've been in a short position on TLT in the group for the better part of about a month and a week. So we've been short for quite some time. And so far, so good. That's worked out pretty well. But let me just go back to ZB and just kind of take a look at this. What we've basically done from not just that COVID high, right, but all the way down here at the low back in 2018, right, we're getting ready to hit this 887 support. I would expect that to be a significant area of support personally. And it does fit pretty well if you're looking at this wave two, measuring wave three. We came back here almost exactly to the 50, didn't quite get there, but we were pretty darn close to the 50. First target was that negative 236. Now I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in now that we've got some context here. That negative 236 coincided with the 786 of the entire retracement. We did see some support there, right? We saw some support there. I got to thinking, should I exit my TLT puts? Decided no, not quite yet. We got to bounce. We came back to this support level. So one thing I'm going to point out here, you should all be aware of what a support and resistance level is. We came back to this level, which was support. We confirmed it as resistance, and then we fell. So what's naturally going to be what we would be looking for next? It'd be about right here, this level. If we do happen to move up to this level, what's going to happen here is going to be very important. Either it's going to keep moving up or it's going to get a rejection. Right here is going to be that level, which is going to be very, very important. Now, we closed out some of our puts down here. We kept some that go actually out almost an entire year. we're keeping those for a while just in case this goes down and just keeps correcting down lower. What I can't say for sure is if we're going to come all the way back down here to this 128 level. That would be pretty low, but you can see we've got a cluster of levels down here based on all of these fib relationships. Down here between 122 and 128, it's very likely that this could continue over the next several months. It could take a little bit longer, but this is why we buy time with our options, right? It could be that we do actually go a lot lower here. So for right now, I'm not interested in buying TLT or going long on TLT, but I am interested in shaving off some of my profits on the short positions that I've got. We pulled almost 200% on the TLT position that we just closed out today, and we are leaving a few on the table that are currently sitting at about 40 to 50% profit at the moment, right? So they're longer term, they're low stress, generally speaking, and unless we start flipping some of these resistance levels that I've pointed out here, if we start flipping these, well, then I'm going to be interested in closing out some of those. But for right now, it looks fine. I don't see any reason to be closing everything out at this time. I don't see any reason to go long. Yes, there is some there is some bullish divergence on some lower time frames, but I'm not interested in taking any action on those at this time. So let's go ahead and move on. The next area of discussion that I want to talk about is the US dollar index. So the US dollar index did have a rejection at 100. So we poked up to about a 100.2 on the index. And what I can say is I'm interested in seeing what happens next. Let me move to a monthly chart here. Probably going to remove any drawings that I've got here just to make things a little bit cleaner. Let me just zoom out and just kind of show you guys the importance of this 100 level. I'm okay if we go up here to 102, 103, 104. That would be okay. But let me just pull a fib relationship here from this dominant pivot high to this dominant pivot low, and I've got the 618 and I've got the 786 on here. This is on log scale. Let's just see here for a moment. If I take this off of log scale, what do I have there? Of course, things move. And we've got the 618 sitting up here. Now, do I think the US dollar index is going to actually crash and move to a much lower point here? Our point here would be all the way down here at about 59.60 on the index. Now, is that something that I think is going to happen? No, actually, I don't. I don't think that's going to happen. But again, kind of going back to what we were just talking about when we were talking about yields, let's talk about this level right here. I would be very interested to see what happens here at about 89 to 90 on the index. Do I think it's going to move down? Yeah, actually, I do. I do think we're probably going to see another pullback, at least down here to about 92 to 94. As we're all well aware on the Discord, we did take a position late last week anticipating a punch up through 100. So basically, my stop loss on this is probably going to be somewhere around 103, 104 in the index. If we start pushing through that level, then I think we have a good indication that the index is probably going to continue to rise. But I really find that hard to believe with what's been happening with monetary policy here recently. We've got lots of levels of support and resistance here that we could be paying attention to. But for me right now, the important support level here is about 89.25, and the important resistance that if we push through, chances are we're going to continue is at about 103.87 to 104. That level is going to be that level to the upside, where if we break that, I'll be looking to take a loss on the position that I'm currently in. Let me just get this in here, right there. That's going to basically be what we're taking a look at to be trading on the inside of. But I'm looking for a move back down here to the lows, which go all the way back to to 2021, about a year and a couple months ago. Okay. All right, excuse me. Let's go ahead and move into our good friends, the S&P and NASDAQ, because there's some interesting stuff going on both of those that I do want to take a look at. So if I go to a 4-hour time frame here on the S&P, I've got some levels here that I'm paying attention to. We really can't go much lower here. This level right here is pretty important support, and that's going to be at about 44.20. If we break 44.20, chances are increasingly likely that we're going to go down here to 42.60. Do I think that's going to happen? Well, if I take a look at our indicator here, on the indicator, and I've got let me just make sure I've got the right mode set here. On a 4-hour, and I've got my high time frame swing here. It looks like we are approaching an area where we should be seeing some support. And we are, although unconfirmed, if we do see a pivot here, we're probably going to see an area where we've got some bullish divergence. For me, it's going to be important for us to break up above this level here at about 44.63 on a lower time frame. So that's going to be pretty close to this level right here, and moving on over. That level is going to be the level we really need to push through. What a lot of people are probably looking at, and just to confirm that I recognize that this is something that's going on right now. Let me get my brush here. We do have evidence that we have a left shoulder, we have a head, and we've got a right shoulder here, and our neckline is sitting right here at about 44.45. So this is something right here, again at 44.45. That level is actually, it's also important for the head and shoulders. What's our target to the downside here on this? Well, let's just take a real quick look here. I'm going to get a fib relationship on this from the top down here to our neckline. Okay, and I've got a template here, which I'm referring to as the measured move. I've got these flipped. Let me just flip-flop these here real quick, because this is going to be where our target is going to be for head and shoulders. If we do have a head and shoulders, the target is right there exactly at 42.59, which is that important level that I was just talking about. If we come down here to this 42.59 level, that would actually be, although I would need to do some reworking on my Elliott wave theory, that would be evidence that we have the potential for an enormous inverted head and shoulders, assuming we come down here to this level, right? So if we see, a nice correction down here to this level, that would indicate that we've got a significant move to the upside. I'm not going to discuss where I think that the upside target would be for that, but this could happen over the next couple weeks, a move down here to 42.59, if in fact we do close the day below 44.45. And I'm looking at the S&P 500 futures. I'm not looking at SPX. So just keep in mind that your numbers are going to be a little bit different if you're looking at the actual index versus the futures. So just kind of taking a look at this. This is something that I do think we're going to see a bounce here. But again, if we close below this neckline, which I currently have at about 44.45, if we close below that neckline on the daily, and especially if we close below 44.20, which is an important level based on this pivot here, based on some other support and resistance clustering back over here back in early 2022. If we break down below this, chances are pretty good we're going to come back down here. I don't think just quite yet we're going to see these lows. A lot's going to depend on what happens here at 42.59. But again, just taking a look at this, lots of support back here in early 2022. And then when we push down below here, nice recovery here. We saw some support there, pushed down, recovered, pushed down, recovered, down, recovered, nice triple bottom here. And then, of course, it confirmed that we moved to the upside. This was a monster move, if you all remember. We were able to take advantage of the majority of this move as it moved up here. But now we're starting to roll over. We're starting to see a little bit of a correction. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. We could see some nested 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 3, 4, 5 to get us down here before we see, a pivot and a move to the upside. Right now, here on the 12-hour, it doesn't look all that great. The weekly looks okay. It's starting to curl back up, which is good. And of course, the move that we had a couple weeks ago, helped that scenario, helped the weekly move and curl to the upside. So that looks okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at NASDAQ now. NASDAQ looks a lot different than the S&P. NASDAQ actually made a lower low here where the S&P did not, right? So right here, the S&P did not make a lower low, but NASDAQ did. So this is why I tend to think that, one of two things is going on here. One, either NASDAQ and the S&P have two completely different counts, or here's the alternative. Let me just go ahead and clear this out. I'm going to clean this all out here. And bear with me for a moment because I want to point something out. This is a real possibility that we have from this low here a nice expanded flat. And where did we stop on the expanded flat? Well, we stopped at the 1618 exactly. So if we have an expanded flat, which is going to look a little bit like this, where we have, let's see, this is the B and this is going to be the C. Let me fix this. The A goes up here. If we have an expanded flat as an A, B, C, well, this is actually extremely bearish if this is the case, because what we've got here from the top, right, we've got a nice complex correction here, right? So I'm just going to mark this as an A, B, C down here. This is a pretty steep A wave, in my opinion, but one way or another, we have this correction that we believe completed down here. We had a nice big, a bull rally there. We had a push down, and we had a massive bull rally here, but this still looks like it could be the completion of a correction. I'm going to acknowledge the fact that this could be a real scenario that we could be seeing here, setting us up for not new highs, but rather new lows. Although NASDAQ does have that same pattern, which does appear that it's making potentially here, a nice left shoulder, a head, and then you've got your right shoulder, which would take a move right back down here. Again, very similar to the S&P. Right, so this level right here is, in my opinion, probably the most important level on the S&P, on NASDAQ, which is going to be here at about 13,855. That's pretty low compared to where we're currently at. It's about 200 points away. Could we see a move down here? Yeah, we absolutely could. What I think is probably going to happen is we're going to see a move, that's going to kind of take bears by surprise. I think it is going to take bears by surprise. And so this is why I try and be very fluid with the positions that I'm in, just to kind of take advantage of the volatility, but also not to just completely destroy my account as well. All right, so here we are with NASDAQ. We've talked about the S&P. If you're in the Discord, you kind of know where my thought process is on where we're currently going, but this is the bearish count on NASDAQ. Let me just talk really quickly about the bullish count, because there is an alternative here that is actually pretty bullish, and that's from this low right here. If we've completed an impulse up here to this high, and I would really, honestly, I'd have to dig a little bit to kind of get this. Let me pull this back, go to the hourly. I'd have to dig a little bit to get a good impulsive count on this, because it really doesn't look super impulsive. If we could have a 1 and a 2 here, and then a 3 and a 4 here. I've got a double clicking issue on my mouse here, so let me just fix this. 3, and then we've got wave 4 here, and then to complete that wave 5. All right, so if that's a 5-wave structure up, which it's kind of a stretch, but it's a real possibility here. Let's go ahead and just take a look at this right here, and then we've got this level right here to create a little bit of a falling wedge. We're breaking down below, but I gotta say, let me move to the regular swing mode here on this. You've got the 1 hour, the 3 hour, and the 12 hour all calling a buy, mind you, on NASDAQ. The last time we had a scenario like this, where we had the 1 hour, the 3 hour, and the 12 hour calling a buy on NASDAQ, well, let me just tell you, it was right here. The 1 hour, the 3 hour, and the 12 hour, we were right down here. And what was happening at that point in time? Myself included, we were all talking about going to new lows. Now, I'm not saying that we can't push lower here, but I'm just looking at probabilities. Now, keep in mind, we had a little bit of a push up and then a push down before we sprung, right? So we could see a little bit of a move like this before we spring to the upside. Now, naturally, we're going to need to get through this level right here, which again is also going to be important support and resistance. Let me just go ahead and mark this here for us, right there. That's going to be at about 14,310. Take a look at this. We have support here, and then we had resistance. Now we need to reclaim that. That is an important level to reclaim. The next level of importance that I can see is going to be right around here. This again is going to be at about 13,986. And of course, the level right below that, which we've already really discussed, is going to be down here at about 13,830, 13,850, somewhere in that range. But if we've got this 5-wave move, easy to count this as a WXYXZ. If you want to count this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a leading diagonal, well, if you do that, then chances are pretty good we're still going to be moving up from here. And taking that dominant pivot high to this currently where we're at, right, that dominant pivot low, let me change my template here. We're probably going to see a move back to at least the 50, which is going to be at a 14,655, 14,655, 14,800 at the 618. Leading diagonals are an indication that we could see further movement in the direction that that diagonal is moving. That is, of course, if we can count this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and not a WXYXZ. I'm not going to dig into the count right now on this, but a leading diagonal does indicate usually that we're going to see a move at least to the 618 or the 786. Leading diagonals usually retrace a significant amount that really surprises a lot of people, and the indicator is supportive of that as well. The indicator is supportive that we could see a move to the upside, and this is on our swing mode. So we're talking about a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks down the road. So this could take some time, but I do believe that there is a bullish case here, even if it is just for the shorter term. Let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin. So let's take a look at our Bybit perps here on Bitcoin. I've already got some levels that I put on here. Just taking a look at just this right here. All right, I got to admit this doesn't look great. Okay, this really doesn't. It really doesn't look great at all. Let me just go ahead. I'm going to clean this out completely here. Just kind of start from scratch, and I'm going to go to a 4-hour time frame just to kind of look at how this is currently shaping up. So first off, everybody wants the wedge to play out. Everybody wants their wedge to play out, which means we're going to be looking for a move from down here. Okay, that's going to be this. This has to be our lower for the wedge. And then the upper for the wedge, well, this is where things get a little fuzzy, okay? Because a wedge really wouldn't look like this, right? On such a high time frame, that doesn't look geometrically pleasing. Not that it has to, but it usually does. It usually doesn't have such a low slant here and then a steep slant on the upper. Okay, so I wouldn't be rushing to complete a wedge count on this just quite yet, saying that I don't think that the upper has even been defined yet. What does that mean? Let me just explain what that means. That means that we are still really early on in the wedge scenario. So I'm not going to be really quick to say that this is what's going on. But what I can say, excuse me, is from this pivot here, let me just get my ABC on here. From this low right here, we've got a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the A, ABC into the B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the C. This is pretty clear that this is, an ABC pattern. So apologies as I'm working through issues with my mouse here. So we've got an ABC there. And then what do we have? From the top, right? We've got a nice clean A, B, C as well. Okay? So this works pretty well so far. This works actually pretty well so far. But then what do we have? Well, we've got this. This doesn't look fantastic. What I think we're actually in the middle of is an A, then we're working on the B before we go up for wave C. Now, where's wave C going to land? I would expect it to land somewhere between the 618 and the 786 of this wave here. Okay? So between the 618 and the 786, chances are pretty good. I mean, it could go to the 786, but I'd be looking for a move to the 618. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we make our way up here to the 786. That'd be a move up to 61,000, right? Not saying that that's what's going to happen. Don't go out and go buy a whole bunch of long positions on Bitcoin just because of what I said here. This has not happened yet. But we're talking about the wedge, right? We're talking about the wedge here, and if we're looking at an ABC on a lower time frame, this can be easily counted as a completed ABC on a lower degree. So let's just go ahead and change the degree on this, move this a little bit lower, and it's all starting to take a little bit of shape here. This looks good, okay? I don't see anything in here that looks out of place, nothing that looks out of the ordinary. this is possible that this is what is happening. And again, from this low to this high, where are we looking from this pivot, from this low to this high? We've got the 50 that we're touching right now. We're basically are all but there. Okay, our low is at 46.77, and the 50 is sitting here at 46.27. Okay, could we come down here to the 618? Absolutely, we certainly can. And it wouldn't surprise me if we did come down here to the 618, because Bitcoin loves to do that. But it could be that we've stopped right here, that the correction is done. It's very possible. Correction is done. If we came down here to the 618, well, this sort of implies that the S&P and NASDAQ could take that move a little bit lower this week or next week. I do tend to think that something big is going to happen here in the next couple days. I'm not going to elaborate on why I think that's going to happen, but mostly because if I said it, you guys would probably all think I'm crazy. But I do think something big is going to happen here in the next couple days. I think we're at an important level of support on Bitcoin right now. So if we did pivot to the upside, I would expect that it probably would happen somewhere in this level. The reason why, look back here. Look back here. We've got May right here. We had a pivot high right here, a pivot high right here, some resistance, but we broke through and then we claimed it as support. Here was support. Here was support. We just kind of flew through, and then we had a little bit of support there, and now we're right back here. So this is important support for Bitcoin right now. It is important support for Bitcoin. If it is going to pivot, it has to pivot here. If it doesn't pivot here, it's going to move down to the next level, which again, is going to be down here at about 37 to 38,000. I would still say this is an okay move. If we saw Bitcoin come down here to this level, it would make a whole lot of sense. Again, a movement down here to the 618 seems logical, but it's sitting right here at the 50, which explains why we've seen a pause. So right now, you've got buyers and you've got sellers that are fighting in this area. Certainly, it's not you and it's not me. It's the people that control the market, that paint these candles. They're currently fighting right here at this level. You've got algos that are fighting. Big money is fighting here at these levels. Once a level breaks, well, then it's going to move down to the next level, which we've already discussed. If we do see a pivot here, it's going to move up to the next important levels, which, we've got a level up here at about 51, which we haven't seen in a long, long time. A movement up here to the 618 at 55,471. Very, very possible. We could see a move up there in the coming weeks, maybe in the coming months. I'm on a 6-hour chart here. So this, again, could take a lot of time to work itself out. Imagine seeing a move up here to the 786 at about 61,500. You're going to have people talking about new all-time highs. But I mentioned about 5 minutes ago that if this is a wedge, this is very, very early on. Okay? Very, very early on. Because if this is the case, right, if we are going to see the wedge play out, well, from this B, you're going to see an A, a B, a C. I'm talking about June, right? This is all the way down here at June. After we have that move, what's going to happen? A, my mouse. A, B, C. Before we see that movement to the upside. Okay, so we're talking all the way out here into potentially September, maybe even longer, right? I'm just kind of hypothesizing here, but we still have A, B, C. Only C is in. We still have to make the D, and then we have to make the E. That's what's the tradable point here, the E. That's what's going to make this tradable. We still have to put in a dominant pivot up here. I refuse to believe that the wedge looks like this. Okay, I refuse to believe that. I believe that we have to go higher in order for the wedge to play out. Now, again, doesn't mean that the wedge is even what's in play right now. I'm just mentioning this because this is what everybody is talking about. So this is what you have to pay attention to if you want to try and play the wedge. So I'm on a 4-hour here. Let's just take a look at this. I'm going to go to my high time frame on this, and let's just take a look and see where Bitcoin is currently sitting right now on the high time frame. On the indicator. Okay, so we've got, let's just zoom out here. You've got the 4-hour and the 8-hour, which are all the way down here and oversold. Okay, so this indicates we could be seeing a buy. Now the 12-hour, which is the red wave, looks like it still has some room to go. It looks like it could make that move down here to these lows. So I'm not going to be taking any aggressive positions like I am long on Ethereum right now. I don't have any positions on Bitcoin at the moment. But on Ethereum, I'm long from just above 3,000. I'm looking for that move to go up a little bit higher, just to claim some profit on that, because this is still a very, very decent possibility that we do see a move up here, and at least to 51 before we see a pullback. So if we see this move on Bitcoin, well, Ethereum is going to be doing pretty well. Ethereum, of course, looks a lot different than Bitcoin does, to be fair. Ethereum actually looks like a little bit of a bear flag at the moment, but if we do see a movement to the upside, it's probably going to, let me just go ahead and throw a trend line on here. It's probably going to see a move up here to potentially 37,300. Very, very possible. This currently looks like a correction. It looks like an ABC correction, which leads me to believe we could be seeing another move to the upside. It's probably going to grind for a while, but it looks like it could see that move to the upside here in the coming weeks. So that's my thought on Ethereum. I didn't really want to talk about Ethereum, but alas, here we are. We've talked about, let's make sure we've covered all of our bases. We've talked about Bitcoin, NASDAQ, the S&P 500. We've taken a look at bond yields, and we've taken a look at the dollar index. So we've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So far, we're tracking the dollar index to reject off of 100. So far, so good. We will see what happens here in the coming weeks. I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. If this video did help you in any way, shape, or form, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And of course, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, a good night, and a good evening. Take care, everyone.